Welcome back to War Thunder Weekly News. Hit that subscribe. On the week before Gamescom, rumors and speculation have been spilling out of everywhere. One of the biggest rumors was this list of tanks supposed to be in the next patch, or at least in the future of War Thunder. While this list does contain the Leo A16, which has been a rumor in prior weeks, it also contains a few other odd vehicles that make me question it a bit more. The first tank is the M1IP, which stands for Improved Performance. This is in fact not the first time the M1IP has been rumored about. Essentially, its armor is improved. It had some slight changes to its side skirt, but the gun stays the same. The Abrams 105mm cannon has been a bit lag behind the more recent 120mm cannons being added. Though I don't know if they need to add a whole new vehicle, because I do know that the M1 does have some ammunition that it could fire that they could just simply give to it. The next vehicle is the strange one, a prototype, a T-54E1, which is the chassis of the M60, but with a strange oscillating turret and autoloader. It added a 105mm cannon. I would assume this would be a premium, as it is a very bizarre prototype, but besides the interesting factor to it, I don't see the US tree really needing the tank at the moment. After that is the T-32E1, which is a T-32, but the front plate has had its machine gun removed and is a slightly different angle. That's literally it. Everything else about two tanks is the same. I'd assume that they'd make it as a folded tank, probably at the same BR. The next one is the M109 ITV, which is a M11-3 with a tow missile system. Currently, the only ATGMs in the US tree are fired out of 152mm cannons from tanks. There's no dedicated ATGM vehicle. So this I would see as a necessity, though having no armor and only firing a tow missile probably wouldn't be too high up in the tree. The next on the list is the M247 Sergeant York, which is a M48 with an anti-aircraft turret armed with two 40mm Bofors cannons. As the current top tier US SPAG only is a 20mm machine gun, it has a slight disadvantage compared to the other top tier SPAGs. Personally, I see this as something that the US tree could heavily use. The final US tank on this tree is the M2A3 Bradley, which personally I think would be a great addition, but odds me out a bit, as why would they add the M2A3 when there are plenty of other earlier variants to add? Though personally I think the tank looks very cool. It would essentially be a US version of the Bagel Panzer, though with a smaller caliber of cannon, probably around the same penetration, as it could fire APDS. An interesting note to add though is that there are M3 Bradley engine sounds in the dev server, though some believe that is for the M163. At the very least, it points to them having the idea to add Bradleys in the game eventually. Next on the list is the T-80. It didn't say exact model or anything, but the Russians are lagging behind slightly in top tier tanks, as the T-64 VB still can't handle up to the Type 90 in the Leo 2s. The first variant of the T-80 was really just a T-64A with a better engine and not much increase in the armor. But further down the line they did get better, and those could be the Russian 10.0 tank. I've heard in the forums a lot that the T-80U is the most likely candidate. After that is the T-72. The T-72 kind of falls into the same category as the T-80, as it wouldn't necessarily be a 10.0 worthy tank if it was just its initial model, but later variants would be more powerful. My assumption is this would be after the T-62 on the tech tree, probably about 9 something, maybe even 10.0. The final Russian vehicle is the BMP-2, which is just a further development of the BMP, armed with a 30mm autocannon that could indeed fire APDS. I would assume it would be the Russian version of the Bagel Panzer. Probably not top tier, but pretty close. After that on the list is the Leo A16, which I already talked about in my last video. And then a strange one, the M4A4 FL10, which is like the current FL10 Sherman that we have in game, but it's on the M4A4 chassis opposed to the M4A1 chassis, so better armor. Wikipedia states that it was built in Egypt, which would make it confusing on which tree to put it in, but some random site I found said that it was made in France, which would make it a good addition to the French tree, though maybe a little bit too much like the premium. So we'll have to wait and see on which tree this would enter in, if this rumor is true at all anyways. The next one is kind of the reason why I'm hesitant to say that this is a definitely true list of tanks, is the Type 75 MLRS, which is a Japanese multiple rocket launcher. It is a Type 73 armored personnel carrier armed with 30 130mm rockets, and you can fire them individually or in a 12-second ripple. The rockets are no doubt able to take out tanks, and it's possible perhaps that it has abilities of direct fire, but it's just a strange thing because it's a post-war vehicle. It's from the 70s, but it couldn't be much higher than tier 4 or 3 as it has no armor and fires rockets. Dumb rockets, not ATGMs. If it was added, it would be a strange addition, but I wouldn't hate it. But I don't know, I just don't see them adding it. So it makes me question this leak a lot. The next one is another strange addition, is the TMA, an Argentinian tank that is essentially Marauder infantry fighting vehicle with a M2A3 turret on it. It was developed for Argentina by the Germans, so it would definitely be in the German tree. But I was told the M2A6 was going to be premium, so if we were to add 2 premiums, that would be awkward and kind of cut into sales each other. So perhaps this list isn't vehicles that are guaranteed to be in the next patch, but vehicles just in the future. The tank is rather cool, and it had a few different variants, including a self-propelled gun variant and a anti-air variant. But if we were going to be getting this, I would assume it would be the regular tank variant armed with the 105 L7. The final vehicle, should get you Britbongs excited, is the Warrior tracked armored vehicle. The list said directly that it was going to be the FV510, and this would be the British equivalent to the Bagel Panzer, armed with a 30mm cannon and ATGMs. I can't find penetration values of the cannon, but it does seem it has APDS, so it should be effective despite its small caliber. All we need now is a Japanese and French and better German. Every nation would have something to take into battle. It said this leak came from the same guy who had leaked the current event aircraft, but I never noticed a leak of those aircraft, so that's a bit fishy to me. And some of the vehicles stated they're a little weird off, and there's far too many American ones. I feel it might just be some dude's wish list that he wants to pass off as a leak, so take this one with a grain of salt. The next story is very complex, as we've gotten a Q&A that was originally a Russian video that got translated and posted to the international side of things. As usual, what I do with Q&As, I'm not going to read every question and answer because some of them are very long and things that we've already passed over. I will, however, link to a video of a dude who does go through every question and give his thoughts. However, I do notice quite a few answers are hinting towards what we could see, perhaps even at Gamescom. The first question I want to talk about is what direction they were taking the development into, and if that involves new nations, new aircraft, and battleships. And the answer was that yes, new aircraft. They are currently working on helicopters, and they're conducting experiments on supersonic aircraft. And of course, they're working on new tanks. On the terms of aircraft carriers and battleships, it seems Gaijin doesn't want to do this, as they've continuously talked against the addition of battleships. This time around, stating that they are expensive, can be destroyed very easy, and as for aircraft, they don't entirely understand that aircraft carriers aren't just the aircraft carriers themselves. The people really want to control the planes on the aircraft carrier. I've made a video talking about how I think aircraft carriers could be added to game, though it seems Gaijin is pretty stern in their idea of not having them, which I think is a loss. The next question was a very short, direct one. When will the naval fleet go to OBT, and will helicopters be added to the game? And the answer was yes, we will add helicopters to the game. OBT of naval fleet will start after CBT ends, which, well, yeah, but we'll get to that. A section of this Q&A was dedicated to naval talk. Most of which was kind of disappointing. It seems they're stern in what they want out of the game. But there's one question that really stands out the rest, is about the Albatross's anti-ship missiles and if they're ever going to be added. And Gaijin's response is, it's too early to talk about this. The Albatross only uses her artillery armament. We've mentioned before, anti-ship missiles have a lot of limitations specifics to them, making them difficult to merge with current game mechanics. However, should we decide to introduce them, we will definitely do so along the means to counter them, which basically means that they have heavily thought about the addition of anti-ship missiles, which personally I'm against because of the nature of anti-ship missiles and how it basically negates most of the ships that people are interested in, battleships, heavy cruisers, obsolete because you can easily shoot outside of their gun's range. For example, the Albatross, its missile flies at Mach speed and can go like 20 kilometers. Now, alongside this batch of questions, there's a few questions that didn't get posted to these Q&As posted closer to the front page. A person on the forums went to the thread that the questions were originally posted, and Google translated skipped ones to English. Of these skipped ones were some already answered ones, like someone asking for a 0.7 BR spread, but there's a few more informative questions that I don't understand why they weren't added. For example, one was asking if another nation would appear in the OPT, though it for some reason translates to PTA, and Gaijin's translated response is, new nations only when we finish testing the current ones. We will collect the statistics and finish everything. So it's not soon, obviously not in the next month. Another person asked, do you have plans to add managed underwater technology to the game? What I'm assuming this is just poorly translations of, are you gonna add subs? And the answer is, no plans yet. Now perhaps I should have run this by my Russian friend to get him to translate this more properly, but I think it's pretty clear. Gaijin does not want to add submarines. The short nature of this answer implies that they in fact aren't even considering the option. Another person asked, when will non-premium tanks of Italy be added? And the answer is, we are working on this. So there's a big yes to Italy, though it's very short-winded, so you can't take much out of it. One that I think is very interesting, could be exciting to a lot of people, is it possible, at least in an event, the appearance of tank fights of 30 to 30 on a map 9 to 9 kilometers, only not on the BR 8.0. Plus, I'm not interested there. And the answer is yes, it is possible. I think that would be a very cool game mode to fall into, even if it was just an event. Having a large map with a lot of tanks. Though if it was 30 whirlwinds, everyone with a weak PC would just crash. Last question, something that I'm very interested in, is when will Swedish and Chinese nation be added in the game? Approximately this year or in the following? And the answer was more likely in the following. And you see here, they didn't say, no, we're not going to add Chinese nation. So maybe I need to get that Chinese tree worked up again. Although it seems recently a very useful site I was using has gone down. So now some of the stuff covered in that Q&A we'll get into a bit. But with the current events going on, one of the rewards, as you no doubt know, is a FJ-4B armed with air-to-ground guided missiles. In fact, someone even went into the CDK, messed around with a few files, and used the data for the missiles, applied them to Tiny Tims, put them on a user-made F100, and allows you to mess around with the mechanics that they're currently planning on. And the way these work, they will indeed be used as air-to-air missiles, as there's nothing really stopping you from attempting to hit a bomber. Now, this has me thinking a lot with what Gaijin is attempting to do with this. If you remember on the Q&A, there was a question that alluded to no submarines. But if you remember back during April Fools, there was a submarine event. Now, here's the thing about the submarine event, is the controls for the submarines were the exact same as the years prior April Fools event where you used helicopters. Just for the submarines, the helicopter controls were slowed down to simulate being in water. And along with those submarines, there was quite a few other mechanics, including sonar and radar and self-guiding torpedoes. Now, what we do know that they're working on, and it might be sooner than we think, are helicopters, as was said in that Q&A quite a few times. Now, what I'm alluding to is that the sonar that was used for those submarines is actually planned to be used for helicopters with self-guiding missiles to help defend themselves against enemy jets, as they would be extremely vulnerable, and quite a few of them were indeed armed with self-guided missiles. And the addition of these AGM-12 bullpup missiles are actually to test out how guided missiles will affect tank gameplay, so they can be added to helicopters. Now, of these AGM-12 missiles, there is a few issues with them. As of now, you can hold the R button and the camera will track the rocket that you shot last, and these missiles seem to count as rockets, and so it allows you to keep track of the missile, which isn't really how they're supposed to work. You can do the same with the guided bomb, but it isn't nearly as effective as actually using the bomb sight. I'm very much waiting for whomever to make a really cool montage of taking out enemy planes with these missiles, as it is really fun to do. Though not necessarily easy, although those who get a handle of it will rule the skies. I'm expecting, actually, this to not be the only vehicle with guided missiles to be added. There were earlier missiles that the Germans and Japanese and even Americans developed, self-guided and manual guided. The X4 was a German air-to-air missile, I believe fired from a Focke-Wulf 190. I'm expecting that to be the next iteration of these more advanced ordnance that we're starting to see. And eventually, regular air-to-air missiles. Besides all this speculation of what they're going to add at Gamescom, there was a devblog of another destroyer to be added to the Russian tree. This time is a World War I destroyer that happened to just last till the Second World War. I doubt it will be the last of these vessels to see, although this wasn't too surprising as it and another destroyer were found through data mines, a US one armed with 4 127mm cannons, and a different data mine. There was 7 titles found. This typically is a sign of some sort of sale. If I've missed anything, feel free to comment down below or hit me up on Discord. If you liked this video, hit the like button. If you didn't like the video, don't hit the like button. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button. I make news videos every weekend and I make random videos throughout the week. So hit that bell icon to be notified anytime I upload anything. Thanks for watching and have a great day.